Happy weekend. There's a lot to cover, so we're just going to jump right in. First of all, sentiment. This is a simple, easy check for me to do, but I wanted you to see it as well because the most recent videos that I posted and shared on this platform, Twixter, here we go with 285 views on that one. This repost got a lot more views. My last video post prior to this most recent was 294 views. And then about a week ago, almost 1,000 views. So is this an indicator that sentiment is dying off? People are already losing interest in NIO. Are they not paying attention? Or is this a platform thing? I don't know how many other people noticed that the Twixter platform is updating some of their policy terms. And one of the things they did not use the verbiage shadow ban, but they did talk about hiding visibility and being free to do that whenever they wanted. So anyway, I just sort of thought that was interesting. Maybe nothing, but maybe sentiment is just a little quieter right now. Let's keep it moving though, because we have some more data. And this is what I think when I see things like this. We're going to look at the PV, which is the passenger vehicle. That's all sales for the auto industry rather in China. We're starting with the PVs. A couple things that I think about and want to point out. This is the total number, over 15 million units across. So this is pure BEVs, battery electric vehicles. This is also PHEVs, the plug-in hybrids, or the extended range EVs, and then also your regular ICE or gas vehicles. The blue depicts the ICE or the gas vehicles. NIO, with its premium brand, has been targeting Audi, BMW, and Mercedes. Now, those three brands are still heavy selling with their gas or ICE vehicles, very few BEVs. BMW seems to have a few BEVs that they're selling compared to the others, but NIO is outselling all three combined with just the BEVs. However, the fact that there are this many sales, over 400,000 for each of these German brands, and the heavy majority of those sales are obviously gas sales. In the future in China, those will go to either a plug-in hybrid or an extended range EV or a battery electric vehicle. So with that in mind, let's look at the BEV rankings. And as I said, NIO, this is the pure BEV, so only battery electric vehicle rankings. They're number 5 overall, but that is competing against those brands. And as you see, BMW, the only one of those other three to even top or make it within the top 20. And also the total cumulative retail sales, about 4 million, a little over 4 million for just BEVs, which is why now as we look at the PHEV and EREV sales, less than 3 million. So although this, I think, has surprised people that these have sold so well, you see sort of a condensed selling near the top with a few brands getting most of the sales. Now, my question is, with the BEVs already outselling on a basically, if you were to align and compare the two, BEV to PHEV, EREV, then what happens into 2025 when NIO and NIO's partners come out with more affordable vehicles like Envo, the sub-brand for NIO, that will be ramping its deliveries into 2025, and then Firefly, which will be even more affordable. Also, their partners that are already well-known brands, when they come out with battery swap vehicles, I'm wondering, and I'm kind of surmising that maybe we'll see more BEV sales, and maybe, perhaps, this will slow down this kind of recent trend that we've seen with the PHEV or EREVs, because if there's a battery swap option, I think that answers a lot of the issues or problems potentially, but I want to wait and watch and kind of track it, into and throughout 2025 to see how that goes. Anyway, I just thought that was interesting, and that's sort of the way I think about things, so I just thought I'd offer it. Next, let's talk about this. A few things related to this. NIO with NIO Park and the positioning and what NIO did to build out NIO Park and to get involved with NIO China. The investors basically from Hefei who helped out NIO at a critical point when the company needed it. More on that in just a little bit. But this is kind of, I'm wondering, when does this become mainstream? Also, on the note of Hefei, you might recognize this guy. He was there, and I think it's noteworthy to see that not just NIO, but some other powerhouse companies are operating out of Hefei. in Anhui province. And I do think that that is going to become a very important part of the country in China, especially with the automotive industry moving forward. So that's why I want to kind of keep it in mind, have it in mind. Also, I thought this was really interesting, and I'll come back. I want to talk about this and do a little test of myself. I'm pretty sure I'm going to fail. As far as I've mentioned before, being disconnected. I'm an American. I'm disconnected from China. But this was really interesting to have the new rankings. And of course, down here, Hefei with its attractiveness index and where it, showed up as apparently one of the new first tier cities. So, again, I think we're still early. A lot of things are kind of serving as indicators for me in the kind of short term as I watch this stuff. And short term for me is still just a few years in. Now it's time to talk about why I believe the short thesis, at least the long term, the possibility of NIO going bankrupt. This thing is crushed. I don't see any way that NIO goes bankrupt now that they have some of the partners and parties aligned sort of on the sidelines, if need be, who want to see them succeed. Some of the folks are pictured here, and this Middle East joint venture, and it's not just the joint venture and sort of this partnership and the build out that NIO is going to do from this, but it's also knowing that the big money, the deep pocketed big money that is there and on the sidelines is aware and wanting to see NIO succeed. At least that's the optics, as I understand them or kind of read into this a little bit. And that big money is big enough that it can be tapped if need be by NIO, and NIO does not have to do any, conventional at the market offering of capital raise. And the reason that matters to me is just like back here when NIO and the Hefei investors ended up doing the NIO China, and that was an investment at a time and a point where NIO was perhaps looking at bankruptcy. They were really having some problems, but William Li leveraged a partnership and solidified NIO moving into Anhui province, Hefei, and doing NIO Park, building that out. And that is one of the things that's I believe going to help put Hefei on the map, but it's also that was really critical and at a point where NIO needed it. But what I thought was brilliant about how we leveraged the move was they brought in the money, and then he immediately did a capital raise at the market offering to raise capital based on the NIO stock price, which at the time was pretty decent. And then they turned around and paid them the majority of the way out. They left them with a small position, but essentially NIO took back a majority position in that stake. And so when I saw him do that, I thought, okay, he wants to maintain control, but he also wants to show good faith immediately. And he's smart enough to leverage things, knowing that his vision is long-term, and to go ahead and lock things up and position things so that they will have these deep-pocketed investors on the sidelines and actually involved to a degree, so that if you do a partnership and you leverage their money and you pay them back very quickly, one of the things that happens is they come back to you and they say, hey, we want to do this again. When can we do this again? And so you actually sort of align yourselves for the long term by taking care of them short term. And that's what William Li did with the Hefei investors. And so when I saw that they were basically tapping them for new money here recently, I was happy to see that, because I can just imagine and envision that those investors have been chomping at the bit, just raring to go, wanting to get another piece or another bite and more interest, especially as, I do a lot of research to dig and see what's going on. These folks have access to a lot of things that I can't even see. And so they're on the inside. They get to see just how well positioned NIO is. But I have no way of knowing that. They do. And so it was a very positive thing for me to see that. Also to see that William Li recognizes he does not have to, and he's probably not wanting to raise capital through a conventional or traditional at the market offering. This is where shorts have a problem, because shorts, as I see it, there's kind of two ways they make money. There's the short-term shorting that they do, and yes, they make a lot of money doing that. I absolutely believe that. Just look back at what Citadel has made in gains over the last few years. And yeah, it's pretty obvious that companies, hedge funds, some of these firms, especially if they're a market maker and can do lots of sort of, should we say, questionable things, suspicious things, they can make a ton of money. But that is short-term. Long-term, the thesis for a short, I believe, is they want to short a company that will go bankrupt. But if the company makes it to profitability, and in particular, if the company is a company like NIO, a company that is aligning itself with really deep-pocketed investors, let's say, as what we've seen, and then even bigger money that is aware of NIO but wanting to see NIO succeed and standing on the sidelines. NIO has bigger money that it can tap if it needs to. And that's why I just don't think that NIO goes bankrupt. So that's my thinking. But I'm always curious to hear from other people. And then how about this? This is a bonus if you stuck around to this point. Darius Dale from 42 Macro. This guy is a beast, I'm telling you. And just listen to this clip about why he thinks that China is where we're going to see a lot of positive things in the short term.
42 Macro's institutional clients collectively manage trillions in AUM, and not one of them has a balance sheet big enough to take the other side of the PBOC's trades.
Big money. And he is a guy who knows about big money, and he said it right there. Basically, he's like, we're long China at this point. That's what we see. So anyway, I thought that was interesting. And so I wanted to share it. I'll also share a couple of other clips, videos, links, things that I'm kind of, paying attention to, whether it's Thomas Hayes, whether it's Ray Dalio, things like that, to see what their position and their view is. Just this week, Thomas Hayes was talking about Alibaba, how he hoped it would fall to about $98 so they could do some more options and make some more shorter term money on it. So we'll see what happens. I think last week he had talked about the $95 level. So I was just curious, where he's seeing it and where he kind of expects the quote unquote bottom to be, because he's also, in a view of that Chinese stocks are going to take off. And so I think Alibaba is kind of the leader, the easiest one to recognize and watch. But who knows with NIO, especially with all the potential naked shorting that could be going on. And the short thesis, eventually NIO to profitability. It's right down at the bottom of the screen, not on the ticker, but the three major growth phases as I see them. The first three, market awareness, the company's still becoming known. I think by the time maybe Onvo and Firefly are out delivering a lot of vehicles, maybe at that point we see the full market awareness within China for NIO. And then let's just see what the rest of the globe looks like and expansion outside of China. But then profitability, I think we also see come in at some point, in the next year or two. I think a lot of it is dependent on how much more build out and infrastructure that NIO does, how much more investing they do. And I don't mind that they do more. I think the more investing they do at this point, the better position they have and the more money they'll make long term. So being a true long term viewed investor in this thing, that means, hey, I understand that perhaps shorting goes on for a longer period of time in this short term, but I remain very long term with my focus. The focus being the third major growth phase. Once we've seen 1 million of the premium NIO branded vehicles on the roads, that's cumulative deliveries. They just passed 600,000. So we've got a little ways to go, a couple years probably. I'm curious what everything looks like. At that point, I'll kind of do a refresh or retake on everything, look at it, and then make a decision if I want to do anything. Thanks for sticking around to the end. I appreciate you. Have a great weekend. I'll see y'all again very soon.